We're here with Matt Mearsman and Jordan Wakely, the winners of last year's AuSable River Canoe Marathon. And Matt, you're from South Bend, Indiana. How does someone from South Bend, Indiana get involved with a canoe marathon?
Yeah, it actually goes back to having a canoe rental back in South Bend, sort of Niles, Michigan area. We live right on the border. And meeting someone who worked at a canoe rental up here, and he was familiar with the race, had been racing for years, and I was just dabbling in canoe racing. And he said, we ought to come up and try the AuSable Canoe Marathon. And when he told me how long it was, I thought there's no way ever, But I did, and I've been hooked ever since.
And this is your 16th time?
15th time, 15th. Yep.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
And Jordan, you're a local guy, right? So this has kind of been in your blood since the beginning?
Watching this race as a kid, I always knew I wanted to compete one day, and finally decided to do it, and I was hooked.
Yeah, and last year was the first time you guys raced together, correct? Yeah, and so you come out and set the record year one together. What was kind of that experience like?
It was just magical, and people, one thing about our sport is that all the things have to come together. You need a great team, fitness, conditioning, all that kind of stuff. But in our sport, you also need some rain. So we got blessed with a lot of rain that morning, and just really some perfect conditions, the way the scenarios played out, a tailwind on one of the biggest ponds. There's lots of things that went right, and just riding that magical, it was special.
Yeah, and Jordan, how about for you? How did you experience it last year?
Same thing. I don't want to say there's ever an easy marathon, but when you get out of the boat after that race with all the, the water we got that morning, the perfect temperatures, perfect moon, you actually got out feeling decently fresh. Like any other year, this year, you're going to get out and you're going to be barely able to stand with the low water. So.
Yeah, and can you talk a little bit about that and the conditions this year and how they differ from last year, and how does that affect the race in general? We'll start with Jordan.
Completely opposite of last year. Last year we had a full moon. This year we have no moon. Colder temperatures this year. Estimated winning time right now is 45 minutes slower than last year. So this upper stretch of the AuSable is going to be really difficult for out-of-state teams. So kind of local advantage to us, knowing where all the stumps and rocks and stuff are.
And then anything that you want to add to that?
I guess, in these kind of conditions, the one thing, it can make a difference of an hour for a finish time. So when he talks about feeling better, do a race that's an hour shorter, it's a significant change. But having these lower water levels can also allow a team that's good in what they call shallow water. When the water's low, if you can pop the boat up and move, a light team can also have a slight advantage over a bigger team, which the high water year like we had last year, equalizes that. Where in this case, I think it favors a lighter team that's good in shallow water.
Yeah, and you mentioned that a lot of times guys will change partners, but you set the record last year, so you're back together again. What kind of went into that decision?
Yeah, I'd just say it's very common. My parents and friends and family that follow me are always like, why are you always changing your partners up? And it's like, well, you're usually trying to look for someone that you can improve upon your previous finish with. And doing what Jordan and I did, it was just clear that we got to try this again. It's hard to do better than what we did last year.
You can't improve on the record, right?
Exactly. You can't walk away from what we did last year and not give it another shot. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of great pairings this year. Who are you kind of looking to as some of the biggest challengers this year?
Yeah, the big obvious storyline is the return of 11-time champion Steve Lajoie. There was a clear absence of Canadian teams last year, and Steve's obviously shown he can win this race, and so having him back with a partner who hasn't won this race, but who's won every other big Triple Crown race, so there's a lot of canoe racing experience in that boat, so they're one, obviously. But I think one of the other teams is another local team, Wes Dean and Ryan Halstead. Spent a lot of time on this river, and they've shown in the last few races that they've got the speed to be right up there in the front. So at least those three teams, and then there are there's 6 returning champions to this race. So a lot of people that could do it. Exactly.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be an exciting one for a spectator. 4 or 5, possibly 6 boats that could win this thing. So it'll be an exciting one for sure.
And do you two feel any sort of pressure as the returning champs here?
There's definitely some pressure, but I think there's less pressure this year than there was last year. Last year was kind of our first time going into it, and we're expected to win this year, but there's obvious obstacles and stuff like that, and at the end of the day, you finish this race, you give it all you got, and where you finish is where you finish. So,
yeah, I was to add to what he's saying, and you think, well, how could that be less pressure? I think the return of that team in particular that I mentioned has thrown a dynamic into this, whereas our biggest competition last year was a team with similar experience levels. I mean, or at least they hadn't been at the top. So the crown was going to go to someone new. So we were on an even footing in a way that pressure's real high. And this year, honestly, we're kind of coming in as underdogs. I mean, so how can you say that? You guys just set the record. But no, we got a lot less wins in our boat than these guys do. And so in some way that lowers it a little bit. Like, hey, just the fact that we're out there mixing it up with these guys who've won on this level, I mean, we're doing something right.
Yeah.
So.
And what is kind of the importance of having a good time trial as you head into Saturday night?
It's obviously important, but one of the guys that has won 12 marathons, he told me as long as you're on that front row, you've got 120 miles to make up time. So it's definitely important, but it's not the end of the world if you have a bad sprint.
Exactly. And that last part, it's like it can happen, worst case scenario, break a paddle, come out of the boat, those kind of things happen. And, it could keep you off of that front row, which would be a disadvantage. But otherwise, it's kind of just a confidence builder, I think, at our level. Like, if it does go well, you kind of have a good sense of how you stack up, because it is incredible how well those sprint finish positions can and have predicted the winner of a 15-hour race. It's pretty incredible. So when things go well, you do look a lot to it and think, man, we got a chance. We're right here with these guys. And when it doesn't go well, you kind of got to take it out of your head that was a 5-minute sprint. We got 15 hours to do this. So
right. Yeah. Suddenly all of that stuff doesn't mean as much, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And then last question for you guys, how much preparation goes into this race every year?
Tremendous amount. And for me, it's very sport specific. Jordan will speak for himself, but for me, hundreds of hours. I mean, hundreds of hours of time just since January 1st in a boat training for this. And we've been racing every weekend since April. I have been in a boat racing every weekend, training all week long, and I feel lucky. I mean, it doesn't feel like work. It's been a lot of work, but I love being on the river, and I've leaned into it on a level that I didn't even think I could do before. So.
Yeah. And for you?
As Matt said, you're training every day, year-round, whether it be cross-country skiing, mountain bike racing, paddling. It's as soon as you get out of that boat, you're thinking about next year and when you're going to start training again.
And their record-setting finish last year was a time of 13 hours, 54 minutes, and 9 seconds, a clear 13 minutes ahead of the team that came in second place. And Matt, it's a really tough field this year. That's probably not going to happen again.
Yeah, I mean, it's like they mentioned, they're thinking that they're going to be some underdogs because Steve Lajoie is back, and he's an 11-time champion. And then the guy in second place, Wesley Dean, he is teaming up with a former champion, with Ryan Halstead, and we had a chance to catch up with the duo of Wesley Dean and Ryan Halstead before they competed in the time trials.
All right, we're here with Ryan Halstead and Wes Dean, and this pair here has a good chance to compete for the title. Ryan here has won it before, and Wes has finished in the top 5 in the past. So yeah, to start, how did you guys kind of come to racing together here this year?
Last year we paddled together, and I've been asking Wes, because he's an upcoming paddler, been watching his stats and stuff. He's doing real well. I asked him last year, and he kind of said let me know in the spring, and so I trained real hard, and fortunately I ended up getting with him. So I think his time is due. He's paid his dues, and it's fortunate for me to be on the end of being with him. So I think we're ready to get the title back that I lost, for taking years off. So
yeah. And was that kind of flattering to you to have him come and ask you?
I'm blushing right now. No, Ryan's obviously extremely good paddler, former champion, obviously. One of the better stern people I've ever paddled with, no doubt about that. So yeah, feels like we're kind of clicking together at the right time. So pretty excited to see what we can do.
Yeah, and the competition's going to be pretty good this year. A lot of former champs are back, and of course the two that set the record last year. So what are you kind of looking at as you look at the rest of the field?
We got Steve Lajoie and Guillaume Blais. Steve's won it multiple times, and he's 40. I think he's 47, 48, but he's probably paddling the best he's ever paddled right now. Then we got Jordan Wakely and Matt Mearsman. They're the former champs, and they've paddled real well this year, and so they'll be tough. I think we'll have a couple sleeper teams, that maybe a Texas team, that could be potentially pretty quick in the middle of the night, but we'll just stay focused, and we know what we have to do, and then we'll just try to capitalize on others' mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt. Definitely a lot of tough competition out there, but that's what's great about the marathon. This is you're not going to find better paddlers than you'll find at this race. So this is why you come and race this one, see how you stack up against everybody. So yeah, looking forward to it. We'll see what happens Saturday night.
Yeah, and estimations that we've heard is that the winning time could be as much as 40 minutes slower than last year, just kind of with the conditions of the river. What have you heard, and how, if at all, can you prepare for when the water is low and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's definitely, no doubt, definitely going to be a slower time. The water's probably as low as I've seen it in maybe 10 years or so. Preparation, I don't think you do anything different. Just becomes that much more crucial to hit the correct lines and keep a smooth boat.
Yeah, I think with lower water, you have to definitely run the correct lines. You can't get away with sloppiness. So it makes I think when it's low like this, it shows like the better teams that are more technical will have a better advantage. So.
And for you guys, you've done this a bunch of times. I'm sure the start you have a lot of energy, and the end you have a lot of energy. How do you kind of maintain in the middle part of the marathon?
A lot of it's just that, you just have to force yourself to make sure that you eat and drink and do everything correctly. Nutrition's a huge thing. If you crash and burn, it's hard to come back from it. So if you just stay steady Eddie through the whole thing, you'll end up farther ahead. Last year I paddled with a former champion, Brett Stockton, and that's the one thing he made sure that we did is just hydrate, eat earlier than what I've experienced, in all my years of paddling. So it was a good learning experience to learn from him, on the nutrition part and when to start eating stuff from that. So.
Yeah, I agree. Drink before you're thirsty and eat before you're hungry. It's a long way, so got to fuel.
And then lastly, your time trial is coming up here in a few minutes. What's the key to having a good time trial, and what is the benefit really of having a good time when it comes to the start on Saturday?
For us, we're fast runners, so being in the front row means a lot. We kind of did a little bad sprint for the Spikes Challenge, and we started in the second row, and that was tough, and it kind of made the start very difficult. And I think, being slow and smooth is the biggest thing in this race, or in this sprint, is just being slow and smooth, and then at the end of the day you're fast, so just hitting the lines right, doing everything right, getting a good buoy turn, and then just finishing out strong. So.
Yeah, I'll let you know the secret in about 35 minutes here when we do it, so yeah, check back.
It takes a lot to compete in a race like this, and I mean, it's not for everybody, that's for sure. You can be in there from 13:54 was the record, to 18, 19 hours. You hope that you get into that 18-hour range. And a pair of guys that have been competing in this race for now entering their third year are one AD and a former AD here in Northern Michigan.
Yeah, Ben Tarbutton, the athletic director at Mansalona, and Dave Smith, the former athletic director at Petoskey, are back for a third time. And they made a big jump last year, and they say they're hoping to make a big jump once again.
All right, now I'm joined by Mansalona athletic director Ben Tarbutton and former Petoskey AD Dave Smith. And guys, you are back for your third year of competing in the AuSable River Canoe Marathon. What keeps you guys being crazy and coming back and competing in something like this?
Just the sense of improvement. Dave being a college athlete and with his triathlons, and then me being a college athlete, we're always trying to improve. So once you do the first one, then you got to do another one, and then you got to see if you can one up every year.
Yeah, I mean, it is quite the accomplishment, and you guys did pretty well. First year, I think it was like 57th, I believe, and then 2021 comes and you guys jump up to 33rd, so that had to be a good feeling to make that leap in the second year.
It was. Last year we got lost in Alcona Pond, so we lost a few spots there, finished 33rd. We fought back, and it was, we have a lot of fun in this sport. There's some unique things you can see on the river that, you don't get to experience in a lot of other sports, just seeing the wildlife and that sort of thing. So it's a neat endeavor.
Yeah, what have you guys learned through this entire process, through the 3 years of that maybe you didn't know the first year, but you learned the second year, and maybe the second year you're like, all right, we'll have to remember that for the third year?
Yeah, I think you have to pay your dues. You can't just jump right into it and expect to be, in the top, say, half of what's going on. So first year we learned that. Second year we started learning more about canoe technique, how to paddle correctly. And this year we did a lot of focus on river running, so which sides of the river to be on, which one has the channels on it. And as you talk to people who have been doing this for 15, 20 years, the river changes every year, so it's a constant learning curve. You always have to be out in the river, and you have to be willing to adapt what you did the previous few years and learn.
Yeah, Dave, you guys just ran your time trials. What have you seen so far that's maybe different from last year's river?
You know, we were just a hair slower, so it'd be hard to see until all the other teams come in. But the water, this upper stretch right here, right when you put in, it doesn't change that much because it's low the whole year. But maybe even lower than a normal year.
Yeah, they projected almost an hour later than last year's, and last year was a record-breaking year, so that was something. But I saw you guys, even with that, you guys improved. You jumped in a complete hour. How was that feeling to improve in a complete hour? That had to be like, did you guys finish? Like, oh, all right, we're done.
Yeah, it's great to see the writing on the wall when you go that first year and you're literally, I'm going to survive. It's not I don't care how fast I'm going, I need to survive. And then that second year, you get an hour faster, and some of the local paddlers will start looking at you, and they realize the work that you started to put in, especially paddling with them. And so when you see that hour improvement, it gets gratification to us. The guys who have always been helping us, now they're seeing us improve. So, it's a big community thing around Northern Michigan and around Grayling. We all paddle together, and we learn from each other, and we like to see each other succeed.
Yeah, last year due to COVID, there weren't as many Canadian paddlers, but this year there's definitely a lot more paddlers and 11-time champion coming back. So, does the competition that you guys are seeing in this field, does that make it even more exciting for you?
The quality of the field is definitely up from last year. With the Canadians and a few others involved from around the country, just. They weren't able to travel last year, so it definitely improves the quality of the event, and there's over 100 teams, and it's going to be a great year.
So there's obviously the Triple Crown is obviously a factor as well. Is the AuSable the only one that you guys compete in? Do you ever head over to New York?
The only one that we've done so far. Dave and I have talked several times that before we get too old, we want to go out and experience New York. And Canada up at the Classique. So we do want to experience the whole Triple Crown, but just not quite there yet with only being just under 4 years of paddling for us.
So there you hear some local athletes and how they've kind of had to adjust and learn about this race as the years have gone on. And this race doesn't just attract local people, it attracts people from all over the country and from other countries.
Yeah, typically, we've seen Canada, we've seen Australians in the past, and I saw the furthest, I believe, is someone from Alaska and then someone from Hawaii, which we got a chance to catch up with that Hawaiian. She is teaming up with her dad. It's a father-daughter duo competing for the first time. They're originally from the Oscoda, East Tawas area and commute out to, they have the nice little winters in Hawaii. It doesn't hurt too much. So
Not bad.
Yeah, so they're competing for the first time. They've been fans of this race for a while, but for the first time, they're competing, and we had a chance to catch up with them as well. So we are here with first-time AuSable River Canoe Marathon competitors, Jay and Kelly Mammal, a father-daughter duo, and first-timers. Guys, I've seen this competition. It goes throughout the entire middle of the night and finishes in the morning. What led you guys to say, yeah, let's do this?
My dad's been thinking about it for the past couple years, and finally talked me into doing it this year with him. My grandma has a house on the river, and so growing up, I'd go up there every year, and we'd watch the marathon and everything. And we never thought about doing it, but something sparked interest in my dad, and so he got me involved with it too this year.
So what sparked the interest?
Insanity. Just something to do for an old man,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun. It's really humbling, and it's like you feel like you bit off more than you can chew.
Yeah.
So, it's a lot. So we're just hoping for a finish, and it just has taught us huge respect for the athletes, the guys. Everybody, and the whole. It's amazing when you take anybody at any level. We're just competing with the canoes around us, having fun, all the way on up, because only one person's going to win it. So you got the top 5, but the rest of the people, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. Can you imagine going through this? I know, like in the past 6 years ago, 1 second between the competition. Can you imagine going this entire length and finishing that close to winning it all and 1 second away?
We're hoping for 18:59.
Hey,
If we do that, we'll be stoked.
Just got to sneak into that time to finish. So what goes into training like this? Because you're from Hawaii originally. You said you guys live half there, half back.
She's full time.
And you're full time. So what what goes into the training, especially if you guys aren't with each other 100% of the year?
Yeah, I paddled a little bit out in Hawaii before I got here, but most of the training started here on the river. It's my first time in a C2 canoe this year in early June, so we were just going out as many days as we could, working from 2-hour stretches up to 4, 5, 6-hour stretches, and putting in as many hours as we could. We heard about 100 hours should be maybe enough to get you ready. I'm wishing we had 300 hours by now, but yeah, we got 125 hours in, and yeah.
Yes. So then you guys are going to be pretty much doubling that, maybe tripling that in this marathon for how far you guys have already gone, correct?
Well, we've done the river several times, so you figure about 800 miles.
Yeah.
You figure 126 hours, 6 miles an hour, whatever the math would be. So yeah, this is like 19 hours.
Okay, nice.
Yeah.
So what was that the advice that you guys got? What was the advice, or who have you talked to? What have they been like? Are they been like, are you crazy? Or like, what has the advice been for you guys going into first time?
A lot of awesome paddlers that have done this for a long time, and they've really helped us out. LJ and Carrie, and
Fred Mills and
Rodney.
Rodney Elliott. I bought the boat from him. He's been nice enough to give some coaching, some tips, and so everybody we've met has been really, probably wondering why we're in it.
But they're staying positive, cheering us on, telling us we got this. So I just keep believing in them and, giving it our all. So.
And then, so you guys are spectators almost every year then?
My family is, yeah.
Okay. So are they spectators again this year? Going to be waiting for you guys?
There are feeders this year, most are family. So, yeah.
Nice. Okay, nice. So they're going to be cheering you on there towards the very end?
Yeah, they've been a big help. So, yeah.
Right, yeah. Hopefully you guys make it to the end.
Hopefully.
Hey, thank you so much for taking the time to do this, and best of luck this weekend. We're looking forward to seeing how you guys do. Hopefully you guys can get that finish. That'd be pretty exciting.
Thank you so much, you guys.
Thanks a lot. So it obviously takes a lot to prepare for a race like this and to compete in a race like this, but as we've learned throughout the years, it definitely takes a lot to prepare for all the events going on here at the AuSable River Canoe Marathon.
Yeah, and Phil Weiler has helped with that for over 30 years now, and he's been really, really helpful to us as well as the media. No one knows more about this race than Phil and its history, and we had a chance to catch up with him and talk about the field this year and some of the race's history.
So I'm joined now by Phil Weiler, the spokesperson for the AuSable River Canoe Marathon. I think you said 36 years, correct?
It's over 30-something.
So you've been here for a while, and it's been an interesting last 3 years here for the AuSable River Canoe Marathon, having to cancel in 2020, bringing it back 2021, but some couldn't compete. But last year was one of the most exciting years for the race.
Absolutely. I mean, we had one of those rainfalls that hit right at the right time before the start of the race, that it just absolutely rode the wave out of town, and we got a brand new record out of it by Jordan and Matt. Now there's also some great senior, master, mixed women's records that were also with that, so everybody benefited. But I mean, the river giveth, the river taketh away this year.
Yeah, this year it's projected to be almost an hour behind for what happened last year. What goes into the projections to determine how fast the winter will end up going?
Yeah, the USGA has some measurements along the way. There's like 6 different times. A couple of them are at the dams. There's one like at Parmalee, one at Red Oak there, that they can measure the volume of the river. And at different times they can let out the dams, depending on what it is. I can tell you that they haven't let the dams out in a while because there's been nothing there. The flow rate right now is low, below average. But I think we're in for a great race. We got 6 former champs in this. They all know how to get it done. I think it's going to be cool.
Yeah, we were talking with the former champs, last year's champs, and they said it's pretty rare when the reigning champions are coming in, and they're likely the underdogs, because you guys got some competitors back this year. That 11-time champion Steve LaJoie, I mean, whenever he's in the race, people are going to watch.
Yeah, Steve came back this year, did the Spikes race last weekend, and put on a good show with Guillaume. I really don't think they liked setting out last year. I know they were following along with all the GPS and where everything was going. I mean, don't get me wrong, they're happy for Matt and Jordan, but I think they're back to maybe claim their spot.
Yeah, and for Guillaume, like he's won a lot of races in canoeing, but not this one. So I'm sure that adds a little bit extra motivation for him and Steve as well, because the last time they competed together, it was that 1 second loss in 2017 back-to-back. Expecting anything similar with a close race this year?
You know, I really don't know how to tell you that, because the water being so low here in the beginning, it's going to be interesting to see how the first couple hours go. Jordan likes to lead. I mean, he wants to be in control, and so does Steve go with him? Does Wes go with him? Does Kyle, Mike Davis? I mean, there's really, 6 to 8 boats that could kind of play a factor. Maybe they all decide we're going to wait till we get to bigger water and duke it out, but I think they're going to go for it.
Yeah, another interesting aspect to the races this year, I should say, is New York. As part of the Triple Crown, they brought their race back after 2 years of being off. They did not have it last year, so the Triple Crown's up for grabs. And Steve won that race, so he's looking to chase after that Triple Crown.
I think the King's looking to take his crown back, but I don't think Jordan and Matt are going to roll over. I mean, they worked their butts off last year and had a great race and an all-time record. They're going to work for it. And as we're talking about these champs, another aspect this year is 54 rookies, 17 rookie teams. With this low water, there's going to be damage to boats, and it's going to be a lot harder than a normal race. These boats will get up and plane when you get the stroke right, but you got to have some water to do that, and could be some casualties in the first couple hours here.
Yeah, you mentioned in 2021 it was late notice. You guys weren't sure if this was going to happen. Had to put it together in 3 months. How much preparation goes into putting on an event like this?
Oh, this committee, along with the AuSable committee, we meet year-round. We take August off because we've been living with each other for the last 9 months, but we take August off and they go right back at it. Next year's 75. That's our diamond anniversary. It's going to be cool, and we also expect, we have 96 teams this year. We'll probably hit 115, 120, just so everybody could say they did that race.
I imagine the spectators, that probably has to go up this year as well. Maybe last year COVID limited some people traveling and all that type stuff. I imagine it's going to be a nice crowd here.
That was the really freaky part last year. The crowds were phenomenal. I mean, we were like, okay, we didn't know what to expect. The bridges were packed. The dams were packed. This whole amphitheater here was packed. I think they just wanted their race back. I mean, they were so tired of being cooped up. They wanted some sense of normalcy. This is normal for them.
And how great is it for Grayling to have this and pretty much have it back almost to normal here for 2022?
Well, this whole AuSable River Valley, I mean, the month of July, last weekend of June, there's races on all parts of this river. And so the economic boost to everybody here is just phenomenal, because when you bring their families and their feeders and everybody else here, they're buying groceries, motels, gas, whatever. This is huge. This is huge for the Grayling, but it's huge for everybody.
Any final prediction on how Sunday morning's going to finish out?
Man, I hope everybody's safe, and I hope we get some water. I mean, if we get some rain, it should ease up on somebody. The good news is the nighttime temperature is about 52, 55. That's not bad, because they've been working. It's not like cold for hypothermia. It's not too hot where you're going to have exhaustion. So that's the blessing. Now I saw there's some 15-mile-an-hour winds in the morning. Depending on which way you're going on that, makes chop on the ponds and makes it real rough. So we'll see.
And how nice do you think it'll be for fans that maybe couldn't make it to have this live stream of the finish on Sunday?
Amazing. And, we did a little bit last weekend, and you guys 9 to 10 are doing it this year for the race, and we're looking forward to doing all aspects of it for 75. And just the response. At one time last week, there was 5 former champions on the live stream waiting for the results at McMaster's, and there was people from all over America that were like, hey, we couldn't make the race, thanks for filming. So this is going to take it to the next level.
Yeah, we'll see how this one finishes out. Looking forward to it. Thanks, Phil, for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you guys for being here, and if you haven't seen it, you got to come see this.
Looking forward to it. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Always fun to look at these storylines entering the AuSable River Canoe Marathon, and it's looking like it's going to be another fun race this year. Can't wait to see how this one finishes out.
Yeah, excited for it, and we'll have the start of it here in a few minutes live for you, and we'll have the finish tomorrow in Oscoda, also live. But for now, enjoy the start of the race.